Welcome to another Howls and Drows post-game breakdown. Today we're going to talk about how the Timberwolves overcame a terrible night to complete a fourth quarter comeback on the road against the Golden State Warriors. It was about as messy of a start to this game as you can imagine, and even after Jaden McDaniels, Klay Thompson and Draymond Green were all ejected from the game, things got even worse for the Timberwolves. They were being out-hustled badly all over the floor, giving up easy looks from offensive rebounds, and generally struggling to defend or score themselves. All of a sudden, a game without Klay, Draymond and Steph Curry looked to be turning into a nightmare. When Brandon Pajemski nailed this miracle shot to end the third quarter, things were looking pretty bleak. But Minnesota got their act together in the final period, and they started it off with defense. Right away to start the fourth, you see the Wolves are going to start using Golden State's lack of shooting to their own advantage. After Chris Paul reverses this pass, Mike Conley is going to allow him to go and stay in heavy gap help here. That's going to allow Minnesota to build this wall with Conley and Gobert on the ball screen action, while trusting that this overload on the weak side won't punish them. They get the steal, Conley turns defense into offense, and finally Minnesota are tapping back into their identity to start this fourth quarter. So now Golden State are bringing Cat into the ball screen action. While Gobert was dropping back, Towns is getting up to touch on the screen. They trap Paul on the sideline, and Towns is going to quickly cut off his passing lane to the roll man and get another stop for his team. After Minnesota miss on the other end, Golden State are going to mix things up and cause a cross match. When we pause it here, we see Towns is guarding Wiggins and Gobert is waiting for Looney. So when Chris Paul comes up and sets this screen, Towns and Milton get tangled up. That's the beauty of having Gobert on a non-shooter. He's going to drop back here and provide elite cover for that defensive mistake. That defense was so important in this comeback. Over the first three quarters, Golden State scored 113.6 points per 100 possessions, but over the final period they scored just 72 points per 100. So again, a few possessions later, the Warriors go to a Wiggins post-up. Gobert is zoning off Looney completely, and he can easily rotate over and swat this shot away. But Minnesota does need to get some offense going themselves. We flick over to this play, they run to try and find some. They've got Cat here at the elbow, but they're trying to get Gobert to come up and set this screen here for this empty corner pick and roll. Now ideally, they're looking to get the ball back to the rolling Gobert when Towns does get the ball back, but it's well defended by Corey Joseph rotating down here. Sometimes you just gotta make shots when these plays do break down though, and Towns gives a little jab step three to get some points on the board. So when they come back down on offense, they go back to the two big actions. Double drag screens here. Gobert is going to rim run and Towns is going to pop into his sweet spot. When Gobert heads towards the rim, Looney needs to rotate over here and tag him, and that just gives Towns enough space to fire away on this three and give Minnesota their first lead since the second period. Unfortunately for Minnesota, Golden State are not going away in this game. They get a bucket on one end, and now Minnesota has to get more structured offense going. Mike Conley is going to decoy a ball screen after he passes it off here and swing around and set this little wedge screen for Towns. Towns is going to reject that screen, flare back out to the three-point line, and now he's got multiple defenders running at him. So we pause it here because this is important. Because Towns has these two defenders running at him, Chris Paul turns his head to make sure Conley isn't going to get himself free. That leaves Nickeil Alexander-Walker to backcut here without any eyes on him, and he gets an easy bucket. So again, we're heading back on defense, and this just shows the importance of getting over screens. Now this is a mistake from the Warriors, but Anthony Edwards isn't there to capitalize on it unless he gets over this ball screen the way he does. Offense into defense again, and after a coach's challenge overturns the charge, Edwards gets to the line for more free points. We go back and forth for a minute here, so we get a bailout three at the end of a bad possession from Anthony Edwards, and then a nifty little two-man triple from Chris Paul to answer on the other end, and now the Wolves are going back to their play calling for their two bigs. After Edwards runs off this pin down, Gobert is going to flow immediately into another one for Towns. It's well defended by Golden State, but now you've got Towns on an island with Kevon Looney, and he's going to take him into the mid-range and drop him off with this filthy pick and roll jumper. Okay, so we're back on defense again, and what Minnesota is doing here is sending Cat out to stunt at Chris Paul, allowing him to be a presence while still stopping any pick and pop threat from Saric. And they can do that because they know Gobert can drop off here and be a menace around the rim. Now Gobert is deterring the potential shot from here, and Chris Paul is forced to turn it over with no options left. That defense once again fuels the offense, and now Anthony Edwards is out and getting an easy bucket without having to face a half-court defense. Now this defense of Minnesota's is really starting to get going. This possession, it's Towns and Conley doing the work. Conley's going to get brushed by this screen, but Towns is going to have his back and rotate down to cover Paul's drive. When Paul kicks out, Towns is going to get back, run the shooter off the line, and Conley is going to rotate over and help Towns out this time. Great team defense all around. And it really does need to be great defense, because this is what happens when that defense isn't on a string. Towns and Gobert both think they're guarding Looney here. Gobert tries to push Towns back up onto Saric, but it's an open look regardless. After another miss for Minnesota on the offensive end, it's time to get the defense back on track. Enter Rudy Gobert. He's going to make this rotation to wall off the drive. Then when Wiggins tries to spin out of trouble, he makes this rotation to cut that off. When Wiggins kicks the ball back out, he's going to sprint out and cover that shooter. He waits for the ball to get back into pick and roll and gets himself back into a pick and roll coverage. And then he's rotating back again to get a hand up on the shooter. That's defensive player of the year type of stuff. Minnesota do get this huge bucket from Towns off this clutch offensive rebound from Kyle Anderson, and then they have to rely on Rudy on defense again. Towns and Conley get knotted up on this screen. Now Paul is coming downhill, and Gobert has to stunt at him here to make him pass up what ends up being a pretty open jumper and pass it out to the corner. Then Gobert has to get back, and not only does he contest the corner shot, he blocks it as well. Again, defensive player of the year type of stuff. The finishing play, the dagger here, comes from Mike Conley. He's spacing in the corner. Anthony Edwards breaks this pick and roll trap, draws all this attention from every defender on the floor, and then he whips out a great pass to the corner, and Mike Conley calls game with an ice-cold jumper. While these offensive possessions were the killers, it was Minnesota's league best defense that once again won them this game. Thanks again for watching Howls and Growls. Please subscribe for more.